down to 10. This man right here is from South Australia. It is Dave Cafone with one fat rack. And you've got to say, this certainly is a great way to kick off the show. Of course, the 71 Chevrolet Chevelle, it is an absolute toughie. You can see just by how much smoke this thing makes. And, of course, Dave Cafone, he's been around the country. He's certainly done lots of tours, and it's paid off for him because he has made this final 10 cars in the Liquid Molly Burnout Masters. Working the centre of that Liquid Molly power pit pad right there at the moment. That's where they get into the donuts. Of course, donuts being the circular motion, and plenty of smoke to be made as he whips it around once again. Now, Dave Cafone, as I mentioned, from South Australia, he was second in the Summer Nats Burnout Comp last year, and that's what cemented his place here in 2014. Whoa, he gets it really close to one of those concrete barriers, but he's certainly steered the thing very nicely back into the centre, and driver control, that's what we're looking at right here. Dave Cafone, he's done what he came to do. Smashes the set of tyres, and he's very happy about it. The crowd going nuts out here, and that is a solid start to the Liquid Molly Burnout Masters Finals. Here he comes, Killer B, Steve Nogas out of Melbourne. This 2010 model Chevrolet Camaro. Whoa, he's turned it around early up there. Normally you get the run off just on and off the throttle there. He's off it. He's got himself a bit of a problem there. You need to try and keep that momentum, that consistency going. And that has failed him, unfortunately. Hardware-wise, 632 cubic inches of Merlin big block. And this Chevrolet Camaro debuted back in 2012, and it certainly has showed and turned the heads on and off the burnout pad. Last year, didn't contest this event. He was one of the track helpers. Now he's starting to really give this thing an absolute hiding. You can guarantee that he's not happy at the fact that the earlier discrepancy of getting off the throttle and having to get the car settled before he got back on the loud pedal, that will be playing on his mind, and he will definitely be torturing this thing as hard as he can to try and make up for that earlier issue. Getting that beautiful Camaro really close to those concrete barriers, they are unforgiving. If you tag these concrete barriers, it's going to hurt not only the ego, but also the back pocket. So, Steve Nogas working the centre of the donut pad. He's had a couple of close calls out near those concrete barriers. And that's another one. Whoa, check out how close that was. He wouldn't know from inside the car that it was as close as we've just seen. In fact, we see a little bit of the bumper hanging off both the back and side of the car. I don't know, in fact, if it has tagged the wall somewhere along there in amongst the smoke. The tyres starting to get very, very low now. You can see not as much smoke coming from them. And, of course, that's when he's looking to wrap this up and blow the tyres off the back of this beautiful Camaro. Running for Crystal Limousines, his own business in Melbourne. And you can hire one of these cars just like this, the 2010 Camaro from his business. Now, how much longer can he sustain putting this big block supercharged injected monster through the punishment that he is? Now we see the whiskey smoke. Not too much tread left on those tyres. And the judges, they're looking to see him with nothing left but steel rims. Just working the figure eight back and forth. And I think we are just about done. The door comes open. Hey, how about that, Summer Nats? What do you think? Because Steve takes his time getting out of the car. There you go. Steve Nogas from Victoria. One of the toughest. Look at the carnage. The back of that car, totally destroyed. The young gun now. This is the youngest member to make the Liquid Molly Burnout Masters. Jake Myers from Narendra. He's on his P plates, just 17 years of age. Talk about a high-speed tip-in for a young man that has just got his licence. He drives like a professional, like he's been doing this for the past 10 years. Now, how did he get into the Burnout Masters? Quite easy. He earned his spot at the wildcard, the My Quick Buddy last qualifying chance on Thursday. And that's how we see him mixing it up with many of the season performers. Arms out the window. He's loving the entire time. And, of course, certainly one of the biggest crowds that he has ever smashed tyres in front of. Look at the concentration from the youngster. He's just finished school. And I was looking to see... Now, he's just inherited. I was looking to see if he tagged that wall there, but he didn't. He's just finished school, as I mentioned. And he's looking to get himself an apprenticeship in graphic arts and vinyl, and it certainly shows with that great livery on board this 1966 Ford Mustang. Originally his dad's car. He's had this car, his father, since he was 17, and when young Jake turned 17, he handed the keys over. On and off the throttle, you see the injector had doors springing open and closed. And he's going to stay with this the whole way. The smoke is starting to dissipate, and you can see that there is not much left there whatsoever. But he is not going to get out of it, and I think we have seen a new star in the making right here. Up on top of the guard and the injector hat, jumps off. What a great run from this rookie, son of Gary Myers. Speaking of young guns, Craig Woodett with the Cup 6 BK Commodore. We talk about tip-ins. This guy is very quickly becoming one of the guys to beat when it comes to the tip-in score. Once again, right out near there, many of these pro guys in the Liquid Valley Burnout Masters are getting their cars so close to the concrete barriers, it isn't funny. Big RPM. This 364 cubic inch LS2 V8 powered Commodore, really with some insane RPM there. Now the judges love high RPM, but the engine builders don't. These engines are stressed highly when they're looking at 8,000 plus revs per minute. Let's have a listen to Craig Woodett, because he is really wringing this thing's neck. Making about 850 horsepower to the rear treads. He is definitely working every bit of the pad. And of course the judges look for that as well. Full use of the pad. And he's once again done what he came to do. Smashes tyres, blows both off the back. And the post-burnout celebrations continue to get larger and much more extravagant. Here in the Liquid Valley Burnout Masters Final 10.
Pretty good, like.
Fred Watson from Western Australia. The number plate on the car says fear. That's exactly what he's trying to instill into all of his competitors, fellow competitors, here at the Liquid Valley Burnout Masters. Fred is a real connoisseur of the burnouts. He travels from Perth. He did a 10,500 kilometre round trip up to Cairns just to compete in one burnout comp, and then travelled all the way home. This striking Holden CB8 Monaro. Got flamage out the back. He'll have to... Oh, and it's big flame too. He's going to have to watch that, because the fire marshals will shut him down. He's not scoring any points with the judges at the moment. The flames, they were huge, and you can see the rear bumper bar of this Monaro destroyed. The guys from Gas 78, as we have a little look at the replay here, man, that is as big a fire as you get mid-burnout from any of these cars. And Fred had no option but to shut it down. Wow, I just can't believe how much flame he had. Now, why did we get flame? It's a build-up of unburnt fuel that comes out and, of course, mixes with the hot temperatures of the tyre. And that's what erupts the flames. the burnout competition because of the fact that he stopped halfway through it. But what a showman. He's going on to continue. And Fred, he's an excitable young man. Have a look at this. He gets out, throws the helmet back into the car, and looks at the damage. Surveys what has to be repaired once he returns to WA. That was a great one from Fred Watson. Now, from Lightning Ridge, it is Matt Power, T for tough. T for tough is certainly by nature and by name. Although he's got himself into a really, really hard position here. As I mentioned earlier, you normally go with the run down the chute and tip it in at high speed into the middle of the donut pad. But he has really got himself into a precarious position where he just can't escape it. He is literally going from barrier to barrier with this HQ1 tonneau. Got all the good gear, 540 cubes of big block Chev, and he really hasn't had the opportunity to get the thing out into some open asphalt to try it right out. But technically, man, he is keeping this thing off those concrete barriers because you do lose points for tagging the walls here at the Liquimolly Burnout Masters. Well, we've gone from an on-board shot to curb cam by the look of that. He has tagged the wall. He's knocked our camera clean off, and now he's back working where he wanted to be originally. This is where he was trying to make his way down into the centre, but unfortunately for Matt Power, it just wasn't to be. Second last year, he wanted to step up and be the number one in 2014, but unfortunately, I think that is certainly going to hurt him where he got stuck. And as I mentioned, it was so technical up the top end of the track there, but it just isn't to be. Not his year, although his passenger, he's pretty excitable. So Matt Power with T for tough. You can see that he's not celebrating like some of the other cars that drivers we've seen. The Master, Gary Myers, he was the first ever to win the Burnout Masters way back in 2004, some 10 years ago. And here he is still competing. Now, we saw his son, Jake, out in this car earlier. It's doing dual driving duties this weekend because both Jake and Gary are giving this thing an absolute hiding at maximum RPM. A real testament to the engine builder to be able to keep a car together and come out and perform like this, not once, but twice. Gary Myers making his way back up towards the start line. Spins it around. Now, once again, driver control, top notch. He's made his way down into the donut pad, and then he's gone back to use a little bit of previous real estate that we've seen him on. Looking a little lost there, Gary, trying to find his way out. Now, that's reverse gear. That will also hurt the King, trying to swing on that steering wheel, bangs it into top gear, jumps on the throttle once again, and away he goes. Well, that is certainly a shame because prior to that little indiscretion of him looking for reverse gear, the thing was absolutely singing. 302 cubic inches of Ford Windsor. It's only new with the injector hat. Used to be a blown carbureted combination. And Gary, this is an all-new deal. He's had this car since he was 17, and he's driven it with the blower for many, many years in burnout competitions, but certainly not as powerful as this. And I think he knows, he gets out, and of course to his adoring fans, Gary Myers, he is still the people's king.